learned from her that I'm supposed to do right.
And she was, of course, she was my aunt, and she was a fantastic cook. And she would kind of spoil us. You know, when you all were smaller, you all would come over, like when you all come over and you all would jump in the bed and everything and do mischievous things that we knew it was you who did it. Well, we used to do the same thing with my aunt, and she would let us jump in the beds and just have lots of fun.
But she wouldn't let me do that.
No, but she would let us do it.
And she wouldn't let you, if there was food on the table, she wouldn't let you stick your hand in there, grab the food. Her hand would come and slap it so fast. Because that was manners, yeah.
Yeah, very good manners. She had very good manners.
I remember because I got slapped on the hand quite a few times.
Who else wants to talk about someone?
Let's talk about my sister Dolores.
His Roland's sister.
She passed away at 40.
Very emotional.
She was a wonderful person. She was very giving.
Okay.
She was a great cook, and she loved to have people over her house. She loved Christmas. That was her favorite season. She's truly missed.
Did she have any children?
Never got married.
Oh, she never got married.
She used to love and dress up and put jewelry on, and she would she would always invite her family over so that, and she would cook, you know, for her family, and she would love to entertain and have parties. And I gotta say too that she was very good with her money, and she left a lot of money to their siblings. She left Roland shares in AT&T and in Verizon, which of course he's very frugal and they're making lots of money. If it would have been me, I probably would have taken them out and spent them. But she was really, you know, she was very thoughtful for her brothers and sisters that he. And the mom, you know, she left her lots of money. She had a good insurance. You know, she took care of her family. She was very special.
Yes.
What did she do, Roland?
She worked for Southwestern Bell.
Back then, you know,
Manager.
She was a manager. No, but from what he tells me, because he can't talk right now because he's too emotional. Yeah.
What was your name, Roland?
Dolores.
Dolores.
Flores. Yeah, she never got married.
I just want to make a comment.
You know,
About
there's a
Joe.
lady at the center,
Oh,
Jenny Quintanilla, that she worked at Southwestern Bell. I'm gonna ask if you knew her.
Okay, go ahead, Gloria. No, I was just gonna make a comment about Joe, that Bruce and I look at, what's his name? Eddie, and we see Joe right there.
Mhm.
Just I wonder why he looks so much
Trying to
like
wonder
him.
what you look like when you're older.
I've always thought that too.
Eddie, our cousin.
He's actually, it's kind of spooky, we look at him, like,
He came in a couple of months ago, yeah, from Japan, and we all went to eat.
Looking
When
at
I
him,
saw
that's how he would
him,
look-
I
that's
was
how he
like,
would
oh
look
my
like.
gosh, you look just like Uncle Joe.
I thought the same thing that time when he
It's
came
like
in
I
and eating with us.
felt, when he walked into the restaurant, I felt Uncle Joe.
I did too.
Well,
It's weird.
and the feeling is there because Joe and Eddie were very tight. They were like one. They were like
he
brothers.
doesn't look a lot like
Yeah.
Ricky.
No, but
More like,
but-
it's just like,
it's like they have their soul kind of intertwined, and so I know that Eddie carries Joe in his heart. So that might be what you all see, because they were very tight.
But he has some mannerisms that Uncle Joe has too, and the way he talks sometimes, and then the little way he laughs every now and then, it's like him.
Just the way he sits there too, I mean, just sitting there.
He's coming in December, by the way.
He was very, very nice to us when he came, and I hadn't seen him in so long.
I know he paid for all of
He paid
us when
for
he went to the
all of
chanclas
our-
lunch.
He paid for all of us. It was amazing. He was really
We
sweet.
paid for when we went to the birthday at Ray's.
But that was a lot of chanclas.
Is there?
Where'd you see him at?
At Papados.
Papados? We all went to
Because we had our
Papados.
town class meeting where all the cousins from Mama's
All
side
the
get
women,
together. all
girls
the
get
women.
together. He was the only man.
We invited him as a
Because he
special
was there from
guest.
Japan.
When I wasn't there.
Yes, you were.
Yes,
You were
we all were at the restaurant and I had to leave to go get you because we forgot you.
Yes. We forgot to pick you up, and so
Yes.
Yolanda had to
Very
come
nice.
all the way back to get you to bring you.
That was the one that I didn't go to. I don't know why I didn't go.
Cynthia didn't go either because Ryan had some testing or something.
How old is his
That was
wife?
so.
Is that his wife in the pictures?
She doesn't live in Japan. She lives in.
I don't think they're married. They're not married.
I mean, China.
Yeah.
Really young, right?
Yeah, I think
Why is
she
she
must
in
be
China?
young.
That's what
He's
he
in,
works.
he's in Singapore. He lives there because he got
Job.
when he was working in Houston, the company that he was working for moved to China. And either he moved or he wouldn't have a job. So he decided to move and he's been there like for about 20 years and he loves it. And he's gonna retire there.
He already bought
It's been
property out there.
No, probably not. He doesn't have to where he's at.
And he has a business too.
Yeah, he opened up a business and stuff. Is there anybody else that somebody wants to talk about?
Rogelio, you want to talk about your grandpa?
Did you bring a picture of your grandpa?
I did.
He's right there
Let me see.
behind.
What was your grandpa's name?
Rogelio.
Rogelio.
Same name as me.
Oh, they named you after him.
He passed away when Lara was pregnant with him,
Oh.
so she named him after her dad.
Mhm.
So
Let's
it's
see.
Rogelio.
Very nice looking.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all kind of look like him.
Let me see.
So Rogelio, you never really got to know him, but did you get to know him?
Mhm.
Do
Yes,
you remember something about him?
I remember a lot.
Oh. Was there one special thing that you remember about him?
I remember when he used to take me to the flea market all the time. He used to buy me these little toys. I remember that.
Oh, that's nice.
Mhm.
Your mom told me that you loved spending time with him. You loved him so much, and that he loved spending so much time with you. He would want to just pick you up and take you everywhere.
Mhm.
It's nice to always remember, have those nice memories. Don't forget them. That's why we do this once a year. That way we can kind of relive the memories again and not forget them. Anybody else?
My father-in-law is there. Where did I put the picture, Yolanda?
No, that's Tio Amado.
My father-in-law is by the window. Over there to the
Let's
right.
see.
In the Army, World War II.
Oh, that one?
Nope, right there. He's the one on the very left in the hat. My father-in-law was not a man of many words. He was very quiet.
Oh, wow.
soft-spoken, just like my husband.
That looks like Carlos.
Looks just like Carlos, but he was the most genuine, honest, smart man. When it was his birthday or Christmas, we could always just get him a book because he loved to read, he loved to learn. He would always want me to take Logan over when we were gonna have a
Looks
new,
just like Carlos.
a moon eclipse or a
Or
solar
Carlos looks
eclipse,
just
and
like him.
he loved nature, he loved astronomy, and we would be out there looking at the stars and the moon.
It's your grandpa, Papa?
Yeah.
Max, want to see?
He was a very,
Max, do you remember something special about your grandpa?
isn't he very handsome, he's chiseled,
I remember what I was calling him old man.
old man, viejo.
And then I have already had chips, I guess.
Those look like him.
He didn't like to go anywhere, like your grandfather, where he liked to go. Once he stopped golfing, because he used to love to golf, he just really wanted to stay home. He would go golfing and come home. Oh, that's him.
Do the boys remember anything special about their grandfather?
I think they do, they just don't want to talk.
You remember something special sometime?
He doesn't want to cry, right?
I don't know.
It's okay
Do
to
you, Max?
cry or to.
Oh,
You remember
It's
something
just to honor
Every
somebody.
time we went to his house and my dad saw him, he would say, Mr. Zeke.
That's what they call.
Mr. Zeke?
Who did you call Mr. Z?
Carlos called his dad Mr.
Oh,
Zeke.
Mr. Z.
And I always loved how he said it.
I can call Mr. Zeke.
Because his name is Ezekiel.
Well, I have a lot to say about a lot of the people here. I want to talk a little bit about my grandmother from my daddy's side, who is this one here, Tomasita. Right here.
Okay.
I have memories of her when they used to live in Del Rio, and we used to go over there. I must have been about 8 years old, 9 years old. And I remember her, she used to make big, well, they looked big to me at the time, tortillas. And she would be, you know, rolling them, and she'd have a cigarette in her mouth with half the ashes hanging over. And she would never drop the ashes in the tortillas. I remember that. I also remember one time when she was going to make chicken, and she said she was going to make chicken, and we said, okay. So she went outside and she got a chicken, a live one. And I'll never forget, because it's the first time I saw it, where she started to roll it around to kill it. And she killed the chicken, and we saw her feather it, and it was like, oh my God, there's where chickens come from. I didn't know. I thought they came from the HEB. But anyway, I have fond memories. The other thing that I remember about her, that whenever we would go there on New Year's Eve and we would pop firecrackers, she would always give us her cigarette so we could light and she says, but you better not smoke it. And we say, okay. And then we'd be outside and we'd be, lighting the firecrackers. But she knew that we would do that. So we had a lot of fun in Del Rio.
She just wanted to be able to say, I told him not to do it.
Yes.
And for you girls, you all know how, who is the nicest person you know, that we all know?
Minga?
No.
He said Mila.
Cynthia?
Mary Rose.
Mary Rose.
Mary Rose. You know how nice Mary Rose is and how mild-mannered, and, well, Ama was 20 times that.
The one who killed the chicken?
Yes.
But that was dinner.
Gave her cigarettes?
No, but that was dinner. I mean, you know, back then,
You have to eat.
and in
But
Del
she was
Rio,
very nice.
and in Del Rio, that's, you know, they lived.
There was no HEBs then, there were no
She
poultry
wanted chicken,
houses.
she'd go out in the backyard, she had chicken, she had to chase the chicken,
Everyone
catch
did
it,
that.
and then she killed the chicken, and I saw her do that on a number of times. She also, the chickens also lay the eggs, she'd go gather the eggs.
You
I mean,
wanted
that
to eat
was the way
chicken,
of
you had to
life.
grow them.
That was the way of life.
I'll say something about her, due respect to everyone. She was my mother-in-law. But I don't think, I'm gonna be 90. And I've never, and I say
It's gonna be funny if I have kids one day,
everybody else,
and you
never
show
in
them
my
that video,
life,
and I'm gonna be like,
if I ever met a woman, it's nice, and it's good.
no, there isn't.
This is
There is.
Papu's mother?
Me.
And what happened to you?
I don't know what
Oh, look,
happened.
there is, you are. Mother-in-law.
Yes, you are.
What?
You're just as nice.
I'm what?
But her is a
You're
woman.
just as nice as
Oh,
As
yes.
a person.
Mamu, you're just as nice.
Yeah,
But-
but.
Aunt Gloria, Mamu, did you hear what Aunt Gloria said? She said
That's
that
right.
you are the best mother-in-law.
You are the best mother-in-law. You're
Best
just
person, yeah.
as nice.
But she was like a saint. I don't know how she was. She was with everyone. She never got angry. She took a lot of everything that my father-in-law was I can't say the word, but it started with a B.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
well, let's
Okay.
just not go there.
7 letters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she would take everything from him. My father-in-law would lay down like that, and she put on his underwear, put on his pants, and put on his shoes.
Okay,
Yes,
let's
okay.
just not go there.
But that's not what she was. She was a wonderful woman.
She wasn't stupid.
And Carlos asked me, what are you making me for breakfast? Nothing. Pour yourself some
some
There's the
cereal.
refrigerator right there.
There's the refrigerator. Dad?
She was one of those that.
Okay, who's this?
I did.
Okay, this here is my dad, who is,
I knew that.
this is, Joe, this is y'all's great grandfather. This was mother's husband. So,
Handsome.
this
Papu.
was my daddy and Tita's dad.
The one we called
That's my
Papu.
grandfather.
Yeah. So this would have been your great grandfather. The one good thing that I can say about my dad is that, you know, of course we were all very poor, but
That's your great grandfather.
That's your great grandfather.
but we were very, he was a provider, you know, he made sure that we always had food on the table. He always, you know, they would always, because when we were raised in the poor neighborhood, there were a lot of fathers who would go and spend their paychecks in the bar and drinking beer and getting drunk and not providing for the kids. But we always had food. And in fact, even some of the poor kids from the neighborhood would come to our house to eat. And I remember that on Fridays, they would take us out to eat also, to the Malt House or Paul Maurice, which is no longer there, or to the drive-in, or they take us camping. So he always made sure that, you know, he did the best that he could with what he knew. He was not very affectionate, but obviously, you know, looking back, he must have loved us for him to have provided for us the way that he did. Because there were many dads back in those days that didn't take care of their kids in any way at all.
And I remember him also as a good grandfather, you know, he would always be happy to see us, always give us money on Christmas.
You'd always hug us every time we go.
Yeah, he was affectionate with
He
us.
was very affectionate with us. He was a
Very handsome.
Man, and he
Oh,
was
Blue
the
eyes.
best
Very
barbecuer.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
do have some pictures there with you all around him, and I think he has the mamon in his mouth, and I think Cynthia's in his lap, and he's teasing
Yes.
you, trying to get the mamon, and you all are around him.
I
So
remember,
he
just
was-
remember having so much love for him, you know, when we were growing up.
He just didn't show his love. I think he showed his love in different ways.
And he used to
He
love,
showed it to us.
To us, to the
He
kids.
didn't know what was going on with you guys, but he showed it to us.
he used to love to fish.
Yes.
Yes,
So
he
did
used to
Uncle
love
Joe.
fishing,
Uncle Joe's the only one I've gone fishing with on the pier.
Yeah.
He
Bobby
said, "Don't fish with
called,
me, Corpus."
Bob used to call Aaron Ernie, because he couldn't say Aaron.
Aaron.
Why did you make the name so, the name that's so hard to say?
And then, of course, this is my brother Joe. He passed away at a very young age also.
He was my age, right? 43?
Mhm. He was your age when he passed away. Right now, he would have been, I turned 65 today, so he would have been 62 right now.
Turn 62 or?
He would be 62.
I can't believe that
Yeah.
I'm his age.
And you know, Yolanda,
That's so.
Yes, Mama.
Yoli, you said
Not
about
right.
those kids that their mother came and complained to you.
Mhm.
Well, I remember one time, this lady, she came and she told me that Joe had done something, and Joe said, I didn't do anything, because he said you were sick that day, and that lady and I almost had a fist fight.
Because Mama said he wouldn't lie to her.
Not your baby.
My mother said, he would never lie to me, and he said, no, I was sick that day, Mom, and I said, like I said, we almost had a fist fight, and then when he was about 40 or something like that,
He told you he did it.
he said, Mom, I was the one that did it.
Ah, chihuahuas.
I don't know what they did. What did they do? They turned off for water or something. I don't know what
I
they
don't
did.
remember, but he was very mischievous when he was a kid.
And you know what? My tools would get lost. Joe was a mechanic. Grandpa was a mechanic, and he couldn't find the tools. He wouldn't find the hammer or and then we found out that he and Wicked would go and sell them to ¿cómo se llamaba that guy?
Pawn shop.
There was a guy down the block that had some kind of a tool shop, and he would buy the tools from them.
He'd go sell them. But I didn't find this out till later.
And just so that you kids will remember, we go back as far as this John Logitzer. His name is Max, and he's your
Great
Great grandfather.
yes. So he's mother's dad, and just so that you all know, he was Jewish from Czechoslovakia. So you all, besides having, we have all kinds of blood in us from our ancestors, but you also have Jewish blood inside of you. And then
his brothers.
Czechoslovakia was Germany.
When I was in my art history class, I had to do a paper on.
Genealogy?
No, it was an art history class, and I had to do paper on missing artworks, from during that time, Hitler's time, when they were invading, and they would steal all the famous, pieces of art from people. And during my research, I found his mother and father on a Holocaust list. So
Yeah.
they were part of that, and him and his brothers actually escaped
Wait, they
they escaped that, though.
Wait,
They
his
ended up
mother
in New York.
died in the Holocaust?
I don't know. They were on the Holocaust list
Yes.
in a concentration
Like in a
camp.
concentration camp?
Mhm.
Yes,
So your great-great-great-grandmother
died in
a concentration.
And her husband, his parents.
Yeah. The
And
great-great-great.
they didn't escape, it's just that when that whole thing started in Germany, at the very beginning,
They got
the
diseases.
parents saw what was
Sent
coming,
them.
so they sent the children to America, but they stayed behind.
And my father's name was Max,
He was 16 when he came
and
to
when
America.
he came to the States, he changed his name to John, because he wanted him to nothing to do with with a Jewish name or a German name.
There was a lot
But-
of prejudice.
And
against
didn't the
Jews.
brothers start like some sort of a shipping business in New
Yeah,
York?
they won the-
But how,
They have
why
pencil
would
company.
he change his name if he was in America?
because
Because
he
there
didn't
was
want
a
to
lot
be.
of prejudice
Against Jews.
even in America.
Oh.
And for
And
your
it was
information,
easier.
guys, I met my father, the day I met my father, he was 70 years old that day. And I was 35. When I
That's when
met
you
him for
met
the
your
first
father?
time.
So you met him?
That's how I met him.
He was
7.
35.
And he was already married to this woman,
Dolores, who I remember.
who was
as
a
my-
great-grandmother.
Alice.
Alice.
My stepmom
And-
was a wonderful woman.
She was awesome.
Yeah, she's the one that we actually knew as our grandmother, but she was her grandmother, and she lived until past 90
She lived
years
home
old.
alone, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to go cut her grass.
And she loved us like we were her own flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Her mini.
Now, and what was in your stuff that you had from her? There was a picture of her with Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes. She
What-
was a friend of Eleanor.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened.
it was like yeah.
I don't know what I did.
Logan has them,
Logan has them.
and he said that they're at Marty's house.
I have them in a box.
Eleanor Roosevelt, like
The
the white
Yes.
Just
Mhm.
Wow.
I haven't scanned them, but I have the originals. Whatever she gave me, I have
Can
it.
you
The one
scan
that-
them and send Teresa some?
Yeah.
The picture.
Yeah, 'cause that's what I was asking him. I asked him for that because I wanted to do that. I'll do that because that's why I'd asked Logan about him just a couple months ago, and he told me they were at Marty's because that's what I wanted to do.
Well, there's not a picture up there, but I want to mention Buddha. Is there a Buddha
Oh,
up
he's
there?
right here.
Okay.
what I'm obsessed with.
I didn't like Buddha at first. Kind
Got in your
of
nerves.
scared me.
I needed a.
Grandpa Tony. Grandpa Tony is Buddha.
But he married my grandmother after they got divorced. But he worked on me to like him, and then I liked him.
And you know what, Marty, I showed you the other day
He still has my picture, a
in
picture
his
of me
wallet.
in his wallet.
You were about what?
She was 6 when I
Hey, is that
She
picture
was
of you?
still
She was
alive.
about 5 or 6
And
years
he's
old.
still, the picture is still in his wallet. I showed to Marty the other day.
He worked on me so hard to make me like him, and it took
I
a
rem-
long time.
I remember that day, I think we had been married maybe about a month, and she turns to him and says, I don't like you. She told Tony that.
But Mama, tell them the story about how you first met Grandpa Tony.
Okay.
I didn't like him. He wasn't my grandpa.
But listen to how they first met.
Okay, guys, when my mother was pregnant, my father was in the service and he was sent to the Philippines. I guess she threw him out or I don't know what. my mom got sick and came to San Antonio from Laredo. When my father came back to look for me in Laredo, he couldn't find me. Okay, so the years went by, and then one time my cousin was at the bank, like this, and at that time when you bank, they gave you a little book. And there were no computers, nothing, and you go and make a deposit, and they'd write it down in that little book. And then like this, it had your last name. And my last name, her last name was Avila, my mother's last name was Avila. And this man was standing in back of her. And my mother's name was Paula, and he says to my cousin, Avila, do you know a lady by the name of Avila? Paula? And my cousin said, yes, she was my aunt. And he got excited, and he said, well, she's got a daughter that belongs to me, and started shaking her. Because he got
Happy, excited.
So she got scared and went home. And she told her mother, you know, well, he mentioned my sister's name, because when my mother married my father, Masito Fela was about 11 years old. And he didn't know my name. The only name he remembered was Fela. And he started shaking her and say, Fela, Fela, my daughter, or something like that. So my cousin goes home and tells her mother, you know, I met this crazy man at the bank, and he said he's Fela's father, but he's not a Mexican. So my aunt said, you know what, it's Joseph's father. Okay? So my aunt calls me at the store and says, you know, Beatrice met this man, and he's your father. So I talked to my boss, and my boss said, does he live here? I said, no, because he was from, I think he was from Ohio. And my boss said, well, you know what, do you know his name? I said, yeah, I know his name. I got the marriage license and everything. So we looked him up in the phone book, and there was his name in the phone book. See? And just by my cousin being there with the name, you know, you see this like these soap operas, and you don't believe that things like that would happen.
Okay.
So I called him, and his wife answered. And
Which was great-grandmother, this one.
Yeah, and I said I wanted to talk to him, and she said, well, he's at the bank, he'll be back in a little while. So then I knew he was my father. But before this, you know, I could have found my father maybe in 5 minutes if I wanted to. Because I had all the love letters that he used to send my mother, and the love letters that my mother used to send to him, and he was in the service.
I have those now.
Yep, everything.
I have those now.
And he was in the service, and I had his serial number, okay? And I could have found him, but one time I must have been about 14, and it must have been about 3 o'clock in the morning, and my aunt threw me out. I had nowhere to go, and I remember I was going down the creek, and I was crying. And then I got down on my knees, and I said to God, nobody will ever make me cry again. No one will ever make me cry again. So then I didn't want to look for my father, because I said, if he doesn't like me or he doesn't love me, I'm going to cry, and I don't want to cry. So then I called him, and my mama said, well, he's at the bank. So when he came back, he called me. And my mother had told him that I was going to be born August the 10th. You know, it's a good thing I was born August the 10th. Because when he called me, he said, are you Pablo? I said, I'm Pablo's daughter. And he said, well, I'm interested in the one that was born in August the 10th. And I said, I was born August the 10th. And he said, well, you're my daughter. And I've been looking for you all my life. So then I said, are you married? And he said, yes. I said, does your wife know about me? And he said, no, the shop would kill my wife. So I said, you know what, sir? You say you've been looking for me all your life? And he said, yes. I said, well, pretend you haven't found me. And I hung up on him. You know? So I cried. I started crying when I had told God that nobody would ever make me cry again. And that's why I didn't want to call him. I didn't want to find him, even though I had his serial number from the service. So I went home, and I didn't come to work next day. And my boss calls me, and he says, you got to come. I said, I don't want to go to work. And then he said, well, you have to, I was invited for the chairman's department. He said, you have an appointment to go by at the Gunter Hotel. And I said, I don't remember having an appointment to go by. He said, yes, you do, and you better come because they're already waiting for you. So I came to the store. And the store had an office all glass. And I walked in and I saw this man. And then my boss met me and said, your father is here. And I said, I don't want to see him. And I tried to go back, and my boss brought me back in. And I said, I don't want to see him because he didn't have to deny me. He didn't have to say, he should have told his wife that he had a daughter. And I said, why do I want my father now? I was very rebellious because at that time, and he said, I don't need my father now. I needed my father when I was small. I've got my kids now, I've got my husband, I don't need my father. And my boss said, Josie, God has, God knows what he does all the time. Maybe it wasn't time for you to meet your father. Maybe it's now, for some reason that you need him now. And I looked up and I saw him, and my boss said, you know what? Go up there and talk to him. And I said, no, you come with me. and my boss said, no, this is a moment that belongs only to you and to him. And I said, I was still angry. And I said, well, when I go up there, what do I tell him? How are you, sir? How come I've never met you? How have we been? I said, I don't know what to tell him. And my boss, he was a very brilliant man. He said, you know what, Josie? You go up there, and your heart is going to tell you what to say. So I went up, and he came towards me, and we put our arms around each other. We didn't need words. And I felt my heart, I didn't know what a father's love was. So I think it was his love that was going to get in here, and I had such a terrible pain in here. And we hugged each other, and he kissed me, and we didn't need words. So then we sat down, and I said, he used to talk to his wife about my mother, about Paula, but he used to tell her that she was a daughter of a friend of his. He didn't tell her that he was his wife, that she was his wife. So then he said, he wanted to meet the kids, and he said, I'm going to take you to my house. And I said, but your wife doesn't know who I am, what are you going to do? And he said, well, we'll find out. And I said, well, what if your wife decides that she doesn't want me? And I'll never forget, he said, Josie, I lost you once, I'm not going to lose you again. If she doesn't accept you, that's too bad. So then we went and picked up your kids, right? And he took me to his house, and my mama was there sitting down, this big Anglo woman, she was English.
But she was more brilliant than him.
Huh?
She was more brilliant than him.
Yeah, and we went in, and he said that I was Paula's wife. He said, remember Paula, the friend that I used to talk to you about? This is her daughter. Which he didn't tell her that it was, that I was his daughter. He just told her that I was the daughter of a friend of his. So we went there, and then, but that was in July. And in August, it was my birthday. And we went over, and she baked me a cake. And then, I don't know what she gave me, and I started crying because we were deceiving her, And I started crying, and my father came down and got on his knees and said, don't cry, sweetheart, don't cry, because, he spoke broken English. And Mama said, John, let her cry, maybe she has a reason for crying. See? So then we went out, and I told my father, I said, no, what, I'm not going to see you again anymore because we're deceiving her. And she's been so good to me. So he said, well, I'm not going to lose you. So I went home, and the phone rang. It was my father. He said, sweetheart, the beans are out of the bag. That meant that she knew. And she talked to me and said, Josie, I already know. And she said, and I'm very hurt. that John didn't tell me. And I said, well, I'm hurt too, because, he had no reason not to tell you. So she said for me to go over. So I went over, and I don't remember if I took your kiss or not. So I went over, and she said, Josie, when John left to go to the bank, to see your Graces, he went to see your Graces, and he brought me to his house. When you walked in that door, he said, I knew you were his daughter. And I said, well, how did you know? And he said, well, I've been married to John for 25 years. And the John that left to go see you was not the same John that came back. The John that came back was a happy man. And only a daughter could do that to make him happy. See? So, and when I met my dad, he said, sweetheart, I have, what do you call it? Bad dreams, like when they have bad dreams?
Nightmares.
He said, I had nightmares. Every night I would have a nightmare. And he said, because he didn't know me. He said that he would see me coming toward the bed, and when he was about to see my face, I would go back. And he started yelling, he wanted to see my face. So then when Mama said, and I knew you were his daughter, and you know why? I said, no. I said, because the day John met you, he hasn't had a nightmare since.
Wow.
See?
And also, I think the moral of the story is that it really pays to tell the truth, because one of the things my grandmother said, that because he was assuming that she was not going to be happy that he had a daughter, but she was elated that she did once she found out. And she told him that if he would have told her from the very beginning, he would have found her.
She would
have found her, and she would have, because she knew she was smart enough.
She had connections.
But he kept it from her, and so that's why I always believe it's best to be upfront with people.
And she said, we would have brought you up, and you wouldn't have suffered the way you did.
But then we may not be here, none of us.
I know.
Yeah, because
See, things always lead to
Work out
something.
for a reason.
Yes, because if Mother would have been raised somewhere else, she never would have met Dad, and that means Linda and I wouldn't be here. You all wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because of that, everything works out.
She probably wouldn't have been raised in San Antonio. The only reason he was in San Antonio was because he was hoping to find her.
And I knew that I had my father because my aunt, those people that were well-to-do used to have a big trunk with a name on it. Okay, and I would see this trunk with the name P. Avila, but not till I was about 16, my aunt went out and I stayed there and said, P. Avila, I think that's my mother's name, Paula Avila. So I opened the trunk and I found my picture of my father and all the love letters that you have, right, Marty? Mm-hmm. My mother used to write to him in pink envelopes, and he used to write to her in blue. And I found their marriage. Oh, and they said, my aunt always used to say, we have a house in Laredo, that belonged to her, So I opened that trunk, I found their love letters, I found their marriage license, I found my birth certificate.
His name changed.
And then I knew my name was not Avila then. Mm-hmm. And then I found the deed to the house. The house in Laredo was not hers, it was in my mother's name. So see how they make the novelas and say those things, and it's true.
But you also had another novela that was Grandpa Tony.
But that's going to be another long one, though. Yes, we can talk about it while we're drinking.
But let me, I want to tell you something that's very important to me. I suffered a lot when I was small. I was thrown out, I was slapped, but God made up for me for all I went through. I've been very blessed because I have a wonderful family. I think God must have said, this is enough suffering. Now you're gonna go through paradise. And not only you and Gloria and you and Henry, I've been very blessed to have such a wonderful family. So I think that the past is forgotten, and it's this you people have been, it's just wonderful to have a family like you.
We love you too, Mama.
And I know today is Dia de los Muertos, but I do have to say that, you know, when I think about me and my family and my upbringing, I am so thankful and blessed to have a father who I love very much, who is one of the sweetest men in the world, who I just think is a loving, generous man, and a mother who is a very strong woman, and how we are very blessed to have had you as parents. And even, you know, as growing up, I know we gave you problems, but looking back, I feel very fortunate. You know, we were never abused, we were never hated, we were never, you guys have always loved us. So that's the day of the living, you know, to thank you guys for always being
Very
there for
blessed.
us.
Yeah.
And I hope we do the same thing for you guys, because I can't tell you how much I love you. I love you more than anything in this world. So, try to do as good a job as you guys did, and love us as much as.
Okay, let's talk about Tony.
Okay, I have to school tomorrow,
Wait,
so let's keep dragging.
No, because it's gonna get late for the kids,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
still have to do the cake
And the
Oh,
birthday
that's right.
presents.
But I want to close this up. You can talk when we're having the cake, Mom. But I do wanted to add one more thing. When you do the altar for the Dia de los Muertos, the tradition is to put food on the altar that the people that you love liked. Okay, so of course you notice that I have a bottle of tequila because
Open it, don't jerk.
that's part of the family tradition, some pan dulce. And traditionally, we're supposed to make the food that the people like, but we've got so many people now that have gone that it's just too many different kinds of food. And of course, we don't like to cook anymore, so, you know, we're not gonna be making mole or
I did make
enchiladas.
one.
I don't know why not.
Stuff like that. So, anyway, thank you all for coming and sharing this wonderful moment.
Can I add a little bit more to the Dia de los Muertos?
Yes.
To just get a little for the kids in case they're interested. Because last week, we were talking about Dia de los Muertos, and one of our students said, oh, I was born on November 2nd, el Dia de los Angelitos. And I said, no,
That's the
November
first.
2nd is el Dia de los Muertos.
El día primero es el día de los
Yeah.
angelitos.
And she says, no, I was born November 2nd, el Dia de los Angelitos. So I thought,
How do
now
you bring
I'm
it to her
confused.
gently?
So I started doing my research, and yes, it's November 1st and 2nd, and in Mexico it's celebrated both days.
On
Actually-
first you celebrate
Yeah,
the
actually
children.
it's, yeah.
And then
Actually,
on the
so since
second,
October, they start doing the celebrations.
on November 1st you celebrate
So
the
the
children.
children,
The
and
children,
it's,
And then on November 2nd you
and
celebrate
November
the adults.
November 1st, they call it El Dia de los Angelitos, which
Angelitos.
is the children,
And then
and
the adults.
the second is El Dia de los Muertos, the
Sí.
adults.
That's when she was born.
What is November 9th?
What is
Remember
November,
when
CJ's
Henry-
birthday?
Remember when we went over there?
She was
They
born-
said
Probably
it
like
was
some
the Dia de los
Swedish
Muertos
Well,
cemetery.
Maybe her parents didn't want her to think she was born on the Day of the Dead.
They took the nails and everything.
Okay,
We had a good
but
time.
in the Catholic Church though, November the 1st is All Saints Day.
All
All
Saints
Saints
And
Day.
November the 2nd is All Souls Day.
Sí, pero en inglés, pero en español, el día de los niños angelitos es el día primero y el día segundo es el día de los muertos. En
Yeah,
México.
but for her, maybe her parents just didn't want her to know right now as a little kid that she was born on El Dia de los Muertos.
See, you emotionally abused your daughter. You always told her she was born the Dia de los Muertos.
Then how does she come out so good?
And she loves
She
it.
loves
Eso en
it.
México lo están anunciando todavía. Que el día primero es el día de los angelitos. I like that one.
No, you can't.
Okay, and of course we have the bread.
Tiny.